What's up, guys? We are live, episode 4 here. I know I say this every single time, but got another great guest today. It's my friend Chris Beal. I've known him for about a year now, met him through friend of a friend. Great guy to be around. He is a health and fitness coach, mostly online or fully online. I'll let him get into that a little bit later. Um, Also, a very intelligent guy, very deep thinking guy. I'd love to give him the nickname Jacked Socrates. And you'll see some of that come out today, but he's very philosophical. I love it. I love having deep conversations with him. Chris, welcome, man. Thanks for hopping on here and chatting with us.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, so um, I mentioned kind of what you do. Why don't you give us an intro on your end? Tell us a little bit about what you do, your business, and whatnot.
Yeah, I've tried to refine it a couple times, man. It's one of those things where I correspond with people via the internet, so social media, email, text, that type deal. So very much distance coaching, and provide people the ability to be flexible in their like health and wellness. So I have clients that are super immersed, right? They are bodybuilding clients or some sort of field of sport, athlete. And I have clients who are just moms who are postpartum, moms who are soon to be moms who are pregnant, people just trying to get off the couch and be an athlete again, former collegiate athletes, dads who have young kids who are running around now. So I do it all, man. But it's cool because I work in providing flexibility. I provide myself flexibility. So because I'm not, in
Right.
person and I'm not doing, video chats with people, I get to travel, go wherever, work whenever. So it's a gift and a curse, but it is, it's fun, man. I'm my
Right.
own boss, so it's
Yeah, for
nice.
sure. And we can get into some of the business aspects later, but I kind of want to rewind and go to the beginning. Like, I know you were a sports guy, played college football.
Mhm.
How did you end up here, wanting to be a fitness coach and enjoying that, helping
Yeah,
people? So give me some background on that.
yeah, no, yeah, no, it's interesting. So I have always been a sales guy, but I didn't know it initially. So I sold everything. So in high school, I worked at Best Buy, and before that, I was in a grocery store. I was slinging canned foods. But no, I mean, after high school, went into college fully expecting to go into aeronautical engineering. I was going to be an astronaut, and I said I was going to be an astronaut since I was like 4.
Nice.
Shadowed, sat behind a guy who was your typical, stereotype, archetype, whatever you want to call it, engineer, right? Staring at his desk, pocket protector, not a fucking word. Like, just didn't really, like, yeah, bro. Like, he wasn't conversational. It was a very just like abysmal
Yeah.
time for me in my first exposure to what a good part of my life would look like. Like, you don't just get to go be an astronaut. Like, you have to work. You kind of climb that ladder. You apply to, it's a ringer of a
Right.
process. And it was then I was like, I have to work with people. I got to do something with other people. I cannot be siloed in a cubicle for 8 to 12 hours a day. It just can't
Yeah.
happen. Um, so in that, I was like, okay, well, if I was going to be an astronaut, I was going to be a doctor of sorts. And I loved, at that point in time, my physical therapist I had at Walsh. And so just shadowing him, I had a great PT back in college. So when I was home for the summer, I would go ahead and shadow him. Loved it. Loved it. Got all my observation hours in. And so I think it was the year before I would have graduated. I think 97% of the schools in America were no longer offering a master's for
Mm.
physical therapy. It was all doctorate, right? So there's like 2 schools, and like 3 more years of school is not so much the time, but it's a lot of money, man. So I'm like, all right, well, we'll see. But the girl I was dating at that point in time, her cousin was actually a sales rep for Stryker. And so that allowed me to kind of go ahead and dive into the sales side, but still keep that like health side. I want to make an impact in
Right.
people's health. In that case, it was
What
surgery.
what did you
Um,
sell for Striker? What was your area?
yeah. So I was in trauma. So I was trauma orthopedics. So any bone that breaks south of your neck, I could fix. So or had a product that I could
Right.
help you fix it or help surgeons fix it. So that was a lot of fun, man. It was a lot of fucking fun. I ran around with a bunch of guys, and it was 4 of us. We covered a territory from mid Ohio to mid Kentucky, and I spent 80% of the day in surgery, helping surgeons use my product, reduce bones, reduce fractures, etc. And the other part, selling, trying to get them to buy
Right.
more stuff. But it's a grind, man. Working 80, 70, 75, 80
Yeah.
hours a week. I want to be my own boss, and I knew that I still wanted to have that like impact. I wanted to know that what I did mattered in some
Right.
capacity. When you can have that kind of like footprint on someone's life, and they can go, I'm better having met you, right? And then now exponentially so. You're a good person. I like you, but you've also helped me make positive changes in my life. I wanted to make sure that whatever I did next had that kind of impact, because I couldn't just leave it at
Right.
Striker. And so I had a good friend of mine that I grew up with, been friends for like a decade, my business partner now, Bryce, and he was coaching. He had been coaching for a while, but he was mostly in person before I came back to Columbus, and he had started this online business where it was just him, but he was doing really well. He was doing really well, and he said that if he got to a point where he needed someone, that he would hit me up, and he hit me up a couple weeks before the end of July, a little over 2 years ago, and he said, "Hey, I'm hemorrhaging money. I got more clients coming in than I can handle. I need someone. So, do you want to maybe do like this, like half sales, half coaching gig?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, let me talk about it. Let me
Yeah.
think about it real quick." And so I went home, and 2 days later, I put my 2 weeks notice in, and I was like, "Nah, I'm just gonna jump in, man. I don't like half-ass and shit. Like, I'll bet
Right.
on myself, and we'll be fine." So, long story short, that is how just honestly jumping from job to job and finding more and more and more of what I liked, and then getting that taste of being my own boss, but still
Right.
helping people, has
You've
brought me
always
here.
been a guy who's been into like fitness and working out, though. Obviously, with the sports background. Did you do a was a physique competition at some point?
Mhm. Yeah. So when Bryce and I first became friends, I was done playing football at that point in time, and I still just had that like football build, and I was like, I mean, I'm just heavy for no fucking reason. I was like, let me just figure this out here. So I started training with him, like training really hard. Like if you ask him, he'll tell you that he tried to put me through it, hoping that I wouldn't come back because he didn't like training with business or training with
Yeah.
partners. So I just stuck around, and 3 years later, we've been training together. But my physique changed so much just with my change in how I was actually approaching my
Right.
my training. And I had a couple friends who were getting into bodybuilding, and I was just like, it seems kind of cool. Like I'm leaning out naturally. Like I can just tighten up my diet and hop on
Right.
stage. And so I did. I hopped on stage. I went from being about 215 pounds to being about 175 pounds, shredded, super lean, nice taper. Just still too small. I was still very young in my like just training age as far as
Right.
hypertrophy training was concerned. So I got sixth at a really big show, which was pretty nice, which is just outside of like
Right.
placing. And I didn't like that feeling. Like I don't like
Yeah.
losing.
Yeah.
As an athlete, you hate to lose.
You ain't first or last, man.
So I exactly. That's how I feel, man. If you're not winning shit, it's like, why are you doing it? Like, it's not. Trust me, starving yourself is not fun. Like, not eating pizza is not fun. Training every single day when you're tired and worn out and fatigued is not fun. So I immediately jumped into off season, and people asked if I was going to do it again. Like, for sure, I can't just do something one
Right.
time and lose. I'm like, I'm going to win. I'm going to leave a winner, right? Walk out of here,
Some
like Tom Brady
redemption.
should have. But took that whole year off, put on about like 8 to 9 pounds of lean body mass, came back, did 4 shows, won them all, and then I retired. I was like, cool, never doing this ever again.
Dang, I
Great, see
didn't
you
know
guys
you
later.
did so well. You won 4 shows that year. Wow.
hmm I did 2 back to back. One in Indiana, one Cleveland, one in Cincinnati, one in
Did you
Kentucky.
qualify for your pro card, or were you like, I'm giving it up before I get to that level?
So you have to. So the way it kind of works, it's weird. It's like the only sport that works this way, but it's because they want your money at the bottom. So as an amateur, you pay, right? You pay to compete, and then if you qualify for nationals, you can then go to the a national show, which that would be the next step. If you place well at a national show, win a national show, you can get your pro card, all depending on the national show and where it's held and who the judges are. So there's a lot of politics in it, but for me, it wasn't the politics. It was more so I was still so early in my journey that I was forced with two options there, right? If I wanted to continue to compete at the level that was now thrust upon me after winning those, like it was like getting easy winning regional shows. I needed to go play or
Right.
at a national show. So, um, drugs, right? It's now the
Yeah.
steroids thing. And I had just seen, especially at that point in time, like a lot of my close friends who had been running shit since they were kids, like
Ooh.
ruined, like going back and forth to hormone docs and, having to run a low level of test pretty much the rest of their life because, if they stop, their estrogen will skyrocket, they'll get boobs, they'll get depressed. Like, you don't want, to deal with that. And I think that's something that we're in a world now that everyone's so vain, men and women, right? I think there's an astronomically higher percentage of women running drugs, not just in bodybuilding, but in regular everyday life, doing things that are unnatural because of just this vain atmosphere that we're all in. And there's so little education that people
Yeah.
receive before they do this shit that like will
That's
change
the
your
problem. I
entire
feel like
life.
most people get into it when they're so young. Like, junior, senior year of high school. My buddy at the gym just said, try this, and now your life's changed forever.
Mm-hmm. You have literally no idea what you're putting in your body. You see these massive gains because steroids do fucking work. They do work. You see these massive gains, and it's like you now, as a 18, 19, 20-year old person, have to look yourself in the face and say, I need to stop, which you won't because you will never be able to replicate what you just did in 8 weeks. Like it would
Yeah.
take you 8 months, if not longer, to do something like what you just did. So it's
Yeah.
dangerous,
So
man.
you
It's
got to
crazy.
that point, and you're like, I'm gonna retire. I'm gonna keep my body,
Hmm.
my temple, and move on to something else.
Yeah, my body's definitely not a temple. I put a lot of shit in my body, but I think it's one of those things where it's just the extremity of it, right? I think that, and I didn't know enough about the science just yet. Like I knew what I had read in books, I knew what I had learned in school, get my degree and stuff. But to actually go out, the anecdotal experience, read more from the less sanctioned, media, go out there and find stuff from people who have been doing this shit. But obviously, you can't just find that stuff in anywhere, right? You need to find like credible sources. People can give you good information. And if you want to source drugs, you got to source them from a good spot because you might get pure drugs, you might not. So it's a whole ball game that I'm like, I just don't want to play it like naturally. Like I have a really athletic build. I can put on a lot of mass when I want to. I can
Yeah.
lean out really easily. Um, you know, am I against doing it ever? Not at all. But at that level, yeah, I'm not willing to do what it would take to like get my pro card, compete at the Olympia.
Yeah.
Like it's
I
not
mean,
worth it to me.
let's go back to, okay, you were going to do your first national show. At that national show,
Mhm.
how many guys are probably on gear? All of them? Every single one?
Everyone, everyone, everyone. I mean, even at the regional shows, right? So at the regional show, they have natural shows, and then they have just shows. They don't have a name on them. They're just not said natural. So two of the four shows that I
Okay.
won were natural shows. And when I tell you I mopped, bro. Like their physiques couldn't even keep up. Like it's just those shows are made for people who are beginners, which I was. I was just accelerated because
Right.
of my genetics, which is why I was like, well, I don't want to compete in natural shows anymore. I only want to compete in untested shows. I want to see how I measure up against the guys who are running fucking trend and computer roll and shit like that. I want to know where I'm there. If I'm there with them, because I was still deciding in my head like, is it worth it or is it not? And when I'm beating them, I'm like, okay, well,
Right. Right.
this is enticing, but it's still just payoff. It's just not there. Now, I'm not gonna lie. In today's world, I might have done it because the money's not in winning a bodybuilding show. The money's
Yeah.
in the Instagram,
Right.
fame that you get when you gain a physique like that and you gain that following, and you tell people like, "Hey, man, this is my push-up workout," and it's just 5 days of fuck up push-ups, like, and people buy it for $10 a pop. You got 50,000 followers, like
Yeah.
you can travel the world, bub,
Buy
on a
my
push-up
ebook, only
program.
$50.
Literally though, but it's the world we live in now, where it's not the bodybuilding that gets you the money. It's the people who follow like an occult and they want to
Right.
know the next best thing when
It's
just get
funny
off
though,
your
all
ass
those
and go do
guys that
something.
they or women that they look up to, they're not telling them their test cycles and all that stuff. They're just, oh, my workout, what I eat, and these people get, unfortunately, a bad view of what really goes on and how to get that physique. So
Every fitness magazine, fitness post, I would bet at least 90%. I'm going to go shallow here, 90%. If they're on the cover of Muscle Fitness, they spent the last 4 weeks
yeah,
cutting and cycling.
right.
Like that's how they prepare for those shows. And then they still touch the photos, right? So these things that you're seeing, there's not real for one, and two, like you're right, like they're not telling you, you know, the hard part, right? The dangerous part. And I think that's our world. Like even things like that are legal, Advocare, Adkins, all this shit like that, that people get on and they lose weight and they wonder why they balloon after. Well, it's like, well, because Advocare doesn't want to tell you, hey, you can stop doing this as long as you know how to count macros. And here are the macros in this shake. So if you choose to go back to eating regular food, here are the macros that you'll need to line up with to maintain your caloric intake. They don't tell you that because that's hard. That's hard, and it also doesn't make you
Right.
dependent on their shakes anymore. So people get this misinformation or lack of information, and they just get caught in this fucking hamster wheel
Yeah,
going over and over and
whenever
over
I talk
again.
to people about fitness and cutting or bulking, I'm like, it's so simple, like so simple to do. It's just mathematics, and you just have to have the discipline. I feel like that's the main piece of the puzzle. You just have to do it and be consistent.
Yep. I mean, mathematics and feedback.
Right.
Mathematics and feedback. I mean, because there are people who will get themselves in trouble going purely off a caloric deficit. And they'll just keep shoving themselves into a caloric deficit and
Yeah.
until they die. But I mean, like it's one of those things where you have to listen to your body. I think I've had a few people come to me, especially women, who are eating 1,000 calories a day and they're 30 pounds overweight and they're wondering why they won't lose weight. And I'm like, I mean, sweetheart, you're right. You are not eating a lot of food and you are probably burning more calories per day than this. However, your body's not going to let you just continue to go at this pace. Like, it's going to start taking from other things, like the muscle mass you're trying to gain,
Right.
because you're not taking enough food. So, you kind of have to take a step backwards or even just tangentially, right? To take a step to the side, eat more food, and that kind of sidesteps that part about just the mathematics part, but the biofeedback part and making sure that if you just think about something and say it out loud, if it doesn't make sense, it's the wrong thing to do. I promise that is
That's the
as
test.
simple as bodybuilding and eating is. It
That's
doesn't.
the test right there. Just
What's
say it
up?
out loud.
Say it out loud. If it sounds stupid, I promise you it is.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people get the calories part. They're like, "Oh, that makes sense. I got to eat less calories than I burn," but they don't understand the macros part and how that filters into it. And you're right that it takes a lot of research and knowledge to get that part of it. So, that's obviously why people reach out to people like you, who have the
Mhm.
experience and everything like that. Um, okay, so your journey, you're retired. You may get back into it at some point. If you do, no, no.
Nah, it's it's not. So I really enjoy helping my female clients, um, but honestly, if I don't get very like I have a very flexible moral code, not for myself, but for what I will judge, right? There's not very many things people can do around me that I'll be like, you're a bad person or that's a bad thing, right? I just am very much a believer in the fact that people make mistakes. I've made some of the biggest mistakes that people can make. So I'm never going to judge someone for theirs. The more I've worked in the bodybuilding space, experienced the bodybuilding space, the more I just can't agree with the direction that it's going. Like it's selling dreams and ruining lives in a world where people, especially females, are already super susceptible to like media manipulation and pressures and stuff like that. And so when I have an 18, 19-year-old girl hop on a call with me. And like, I'm not against bodybuilding as a sport. If you want to build a bigger, stronger, better body healthily,
Right.
I'm for it. Let's do it. But it's when they come in and they go, I want to be a pro and I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. I'm like, there are so many things contingent on you being a pro, And a big part of that is genetics. So if you don't have it, you don't have it. And then if you don't have it, what you'll do is you'll force yourself into whatever category you can with drugs.
Right.
So that means you'll ruin yourself. And it's just one of those things where it's got to be for adults, right? You got to have some level of like protecting these, especially young people, from themselves when they enter into the sport, and all of a sudden, like they're looking back at 30 and they're paying for some of the mistakes they made in a perceivingly healthy or perceivingly, whatever, like healthy field, right? Like I was doing something to be better and healthier and stronger, but the ancillary shit, it fucked me,
I
and
had a
now I was
guest on
ruined
my
for
last
life.
podcast. Her name was Rachel. She's an online fitness coach too, and she said that was some of the biggest things is um, these women who she worked with, they'd have such bad relationships with
Hmm.
food after doing a show or something like that, and just working through that with them and trying to get them back on you know two legs and the
Yeah.
relationship with food and getting that better. So I can imagine how it messes people up. And,
I mean, you create an eating disorder. I mean, I experienced it. I mean, I really, I did. I mean, I remember coming. I mean,
right.
but you have to know that's what's going to happen, right? That's the thing, is that everyone's going to experience it because you become so food focused for such a like sustained duration that when you're trying to get back out, dude, there are times where like you see those shows where people go like, "Oh, I saw red, bro. I didn't even see what I don't even remember what happened. I blacked out." And I mean, I've had nights, post show. Like I remember the first night, post my very first show, where I don't even remember what I ate. I think I had wings and pizza and a pizookie, but then I got up in the middle of the night and I'm like, ice cream and honey bun sounds good. So then I walked down to UDF, got an UDF, saw Cool Ranch Doritos, picked those up too, walking around eating those while I'm finding more food. And before you know it, you're laying in bed with a distended stomach and swollen ankles, and you're like, I don't even know what happened. Like it's like the gremlins got out, bro. Like they just went fucking crazy. And that's like a really bad cycle to try to break, is to binge and then feel really shitty about binging, and then now you're starving yourself again. And you're like, oh, instead of just getting back on track, because everyone
Oh, yeah.
binges, even in everyday life, right? Like I had pizza 3 days in a row this past weekend, right? Like, and now I'm like, okay,
Right.
let me like not be an asshole and eat like good food, balanced meals today, drink my water. But at the end of the day, like if you don't know going into bodybuilding what it can do to your mental, and you don't have that like fortuitousness about you, like you don't have that ability to be resilient against the changes you're going to have mentally and the thoughts you're going to have, the self-deprecation thoughts you're going to have,
Yeah.
it can be really
So
really
when
bad.
your clientele, where do most of them fit? Does are 50% people who want to do shows? I mean, what's your niche?
Yeah, that's actually about it right there. Probably 50
Okay.
50, maybe 40 60. um to be honest, I'm very picky about the people who come to me now at this point who want to be competitors, um because I just find myself in that like rock and a hard place, because typically I'll work with people who have prep coaches. So say the prep coach suggests something that I don't think is correct, but that's not my job. That's not what you pay me to do. It's not, you don't pay me to tell you, sweetheart, you just learned how to do an RDL properly. You should not be putting clenbuterol in your body. Like, you should learn how to lift first. And then, after you've been lifting for 5, 10 years, maybe we can talk about like supplementation. But to tell me that, like, you got a gym membership 3 months ago and now you're talking about spending extra money on supplements that are like illegal, that are drugs, it's just hard for me to like sit by and watch that. So I definitely have shifted a lot of my clientele focus to more, and I have more fun with like with moms and women who just want to be fit, have fun. Girls who want to be snatched, slim, thick, whatever. Be out on a yacht, be out on Norris Lake, doing their thing, man. That to me is a more fun group. It's funny because it's like splitting hairs, because typically you get a more like faithful and uh, respectful adherence to the plan from a bodybuilder, and you get a more lax approach. So finding the coaching style that works for both, Obviously, really easy on this part because, like I said, it's mathematics. We're just going to keep lifting every single week. We're going to undulate some things. We're going to, play with intensities. We're going to play with rep ranges, volume. I'm sorry, load, etc. But for here, it's the mental game. How can you keep them mentally engaged? Because they already know it's going to suck. They're
Right.
in prep. They're starving. Everything sucks. These people live great lives. They just want to add a better part. They want to feel better about themselves. And so if you make training a chore, if you make it, too hard or something that they resist, then you lose them. So you have to like find that balance between pushing them towards let's push hard because that's what's going to get you to your goals,
Yeah.
but also
So
let's
I
have some
come
fun.
to you, I say, Chris, I want to work with you. Do you have different levels of coaching and things like that? Explain those to me, if anybody listening is interested.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, excuse me. I just like chowed down. You like blueberries?
Oh,
Not
no.
blueberries,
I'm not a big
blueberries, the
cereal
cereal.
guy.
What? We'll save that for a different podcast. I just like chowed down a bunch of cereal, so I'm like a little burpy over here. But so yes, as a company, we offer a couple different things. Everything from someone who wants to be super distant. If you want to join our email chain, in our email chain, you get a workout of the week every single week. You get a movement breakdown. You also get like just like some like nuanced material. So it's a tertiary delivery. So you get 3 emails a week, which is a really, really cool offering. There's no subscription that you can sign on for and get that. It's like $10 a month, but it's cool because in that, after the full month, you have 4 full workout sessions. You have different movement breakdowns, YouTube videos, access to our YouTube library, and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. It's really, really inexpensive. Um, Step up from that, we have what's called microcycles, where people can go onto our website and they can buy a just like one-off program, and that program they can run for 6 to 8 weeks. It comes with tracking sheets, notes, an ebook on training explained and how to break down everything, the vernacular, the flow, the design, etc. That you'll actually find in that microcycle, that program essentially. But cool little plug, I think I
Yeah.
mentioned this to you, but we're developing an app. I don't know if
Nice.
I told you that we're almost done. So I was just looking over color schemes today, so that's really exciting. This will be cool because similar to like a bodybuilding.com, but better. You will have tailor-made programs available to you that are filterable, almost like Netflix, but for training. So you'll be able to go in and find a program that you can then take, click it, move it over into Trainerize, which we've backdoored the full API there. So Trainerize is completely customized to us. That program will drop into Trainerize, and then you can track and move through there. You can track your food in there, all reps and stuff like that. You have access to the coaches, so you can message us. And then you can obviously add on things if you want like more in-depth style there. But that's a cool subscription software that we'll have. That'll be somewhere starting in the neighborhood of like 20 to
You
$25
are
a month,
undercharging,
which
I feel
is
like.
really cool. So yes and no. So I think I agree with you. The world doesn't. So what we had to do instead of trying to, and I think that's what we've been doing, right? Because we offer such a premium tier service, like it costs $300 a month to work with me, like one on one. We meet every single week, emails. I send you videos. I review your videos, update your program, etc. Like that's $300 a month. That's a pretty ticket. Is it worth it? 100%. Because if you're seeing a personal trainer, 5 days a week for an hour, and they're charging you $70,
Yeah.
like I'm
Exponentially.
cheaper. People don't look at it that way.
Right.
Huh? Yeah, exactly. People don't look at it that way. So, what are the competitors out there? Most of the competitors out there are, body work and other, things that use either Trainerize or a True Coach, and they are somewhere in the neighborhood of, I've seen the lowest of like $8 a month, and the highest is like $30 a month. So, they have a dollar value in mind, and I could create this product with this Trainerize, assistance and say, hey, it's $100 a month and it's still a bargain. Or I could create a product that mirrors everything that's out there, but is exponentially better in context and what you get, charge a little less than the premier ticket. And then if you want what I know you'll want eventually, which is the video feedback, to be able to email me, hop on a call with me occasionally, those will be add-ons, right? Instead of trying to force
Yeah.
feed people a product you know is valuable, I'm like, let me just give you the MVP. Let me give you the most valuable product, the minimal viable product that you want, right? You want a program. You want to be able to go in and, do things within this. But you will have questions. And when you have questions, I'll have answers. They'll cost more money, but now it looks like what Bodywork does, right? You go to bodywork.com or whatever, you sign up and you run a program that is probably speaking fucking
Right.
Spanglish at you because you have no idea what's going on. And so you're just trying to figure it out, but you have no one to contact. You can contact bodybuilding.com, but good luck.
Right.
So, like, who are you going to talk to? Who are you going to talk to that's also going to talk to you in a way that's personalized for you? That's looking at what you're doing in their app and going, hey, you know, you chose an intermediate program, but I really think you would benefit from a beginner program. Or you chose a beginner program, but quite frankly, this is just really too easy for you. Let's check out an advanced program and it's
Yeah.
free. Like you can cycle them in and out as you want. You don't pay by the ad. It just you move them as you want as long as you have the subscription. So um undercharging, yes, but we're gonna meet people where they
Yeah.
are and kill the market there because I think that
Dude,
to
I'm
me,
pumped, man.
there's
I
not
can't
another
wait to see
product
that
out there
come
like
out.
it.
I'm excited. That's awesome.
Absolutely, dude. I saw it today, and it's so pretty. It's so pretty. It gave me
How long
chills
has that
looking
been
at it.
in
I'm like,
the
oh
in
my
the
god, I
works?
can't wait. About
Nice.
6 months, seven
How'd you guys
months.
find the developer
It's a
for it?
long process. So we started working through Trainerize. I trialed a bunch of different apps: Trainerize, True Coach, EverFit. Um, Hated pretty much all of them, but Trainerize was the one that was closest to what we wanted, and they're also the most innovative. They're the ones adding the most like new features every single month. So to me, I'm like, it'll grow into what I want, but as it is right now, it's better than everything else. Plus, they offer the feature of being able to like pretty much backdoor their API, which means
Right.
essentially like I can change almost everything on it. Like it'll even you don't have to download Trainerize to use our app. You'll actually download Progressive Performance. Like it'll be our app, so that'll be cool. But in Trainerize, this thing they have partners, and I found this guy. His name's Mike, super cool guy. He's worked with a lot of different people just to kind of automate things. So we essentially had to build a membership site that was tangent to our current site so that when someone signs up, it takes them there as a mobile form as well. So if you're on your way to the gym and you forgot to change your program out, you're able to pull this little membership site up, sign in, go in, filter. I'm a male. I want to train 4 days a week. I'm not a bodybuilder. I'm a lifestyle client, and I am if I didn't say it, intermediate, male. So I'm like, all right, cool. It'll filter. Right now, I think we have like 100 or so that are set up in there. It'll filter all 100 programs that are in the database for those things that fit that. And then you just click it, open it up. It'll show a couple pictures and maybe a screenshot, and you'll go, okay, I don't like that one. Find the next one. Oh, I like that one. Add to program, and it'll run right into your Trainerize. It'll remove the old one, put the
Sweet,
new one
man.
in there, and you're
I'm
good to
gonna have
go.
to get on that.
I'm geeked, man. I'm geeked for everyone to try it. It's gonna be a lot of fun, man. I Apple emailed me today and said
Nice.
it's in pending. So
I told you we did an app a while back. We had to shut it down, but that's a fun process and a very interesting one. Uh,
it is a very interesting process. I'll tell you that. You think about like what goes into it, and you're like, okay, like they have like apps that help you build apps now. Like this can't be that hard. But then once we laid out what we wanted, we're like, okay, and we saw like the trees, and I'm like talking to the guys daily, and I'm like, these guys are good, and this is a lot of work. Like it's a team of them. It's like 7 guys that are working on this, and so they've been moving it pretty quickly.
yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely an
So
undertaking to say the
how many
least.
clients at one time do you like to keep it at? Or are you just like come one, come all? Okay.
No, I definitely cap myself. Otherwise, so like that's the thing. When you offer a premier product, that's why we wanted the app. When you offer a premier product,
Right.
you also offer a lot of your time, a lot of yourself, because that's the only way that even for me, I can justify charging what I charge, even though I believe I undercharge. I believe that for my time, for my hour, that every client gets about an hour of my time each week, right? That includes their check-in, their video, if I had to put a new program, etc. So that's 4 hours a month. I don't think that 4 hours a month of my time is only
Right.
worth 50, 70, $80, right? But again, meeting the market where it's at. So when it comes down to like how many clients I can take on, currently I'm hovering at about 40. I've maxed out at one point in time like 52 at one point in time. And that was tough. That was tough. And so now I'm a bit smarter about it, and I only bring certain clients on at certain tiers because I kind of went over like the app and stuff like that, and that's everything that's impersonal. It's not something I do daily. Whereas I do have my own coaching tiers. I have a baseline tier and a progressive tier. For the baseline clients, I call it a done with you, right? So it's me and UTP. You come to me, I build this program for you, and contextually I walk you through it. You still check in with me each week. You still get video reviews, so those are major value adds. But I'm not in there manually changing things each week. I'm not in there manually updating and moving things around. Saves
Right.
me at least 20 minutes or so per check-in, which is good because that means I
Right.
can give you money back. I don't have to pay as much for this. And as long as you are like capable, experienced enough to understand what it is I'm contextualizing and giving to you, and you have all the resources, Instagram, training explained ebook, that type deal, you can walk yourself through it. And it also, to me, I like that because you learn more, right? You're not being spoon fed something that when you leave it, like, I don't know what he was doing or why he was doing it. So now you're pretty much where you were when you came here. But for me, I like to educate. Like, I don't want my clients to need to
Right.
stay with me for the rest of their life. Most of them do stay, but the idea is that you could leave me in 6 months and go, I might not be super proficient. I can't write for someone else, but I can definitely write for myself. I know how to get myself in the gym. I know how to write a program that is balanced, that, takes recovery and performance into, account.
That's how you
You
know you're
will
adding a
learn
lot
that
of
with me.
value.
And that's why I like
You're
them.
giving all these clients the knowledge and education, and they're still continuing to stay with you. So, uh,
A lot of our clients have become coaches. That's the crazy part about it. Like Tyler Bates is
yeah,
on our team. She was a client of mine, is a client of mine. Kelly was on the team. She was a client of mine. I'm sorry, a client of Bryce's rather. So I mean, they learn a lot, and a lot of them, find a passion in it. There's several clients that we've had that have become
that's
coaches
crazy.
while they were
That's a
clients,
testament right
right?
there. That's very cool.
It's something we're working on. I think that we'll probably eventually, especially because Bryce is, kudos to him. The dude doesn't forget anything that he reads, and he's an ultimate like educator because the reason why he's not famous is because he's not shouting some extreme from the mountaintop, because he understands the context and everything, because he's read everything. So he knows that for every argument you make to use machines, I can tell you there's an argument to use barbell. For every argument you make to not eat a pre-workout meal and train fasted, I can tell you there's an argument out there to say you should have 100 plus carbs per pre-workout meal. So because he has that context,
Yeah,
obviously that's not clickbaity enough, so he's not famous. But as far as
yeah,
intelligence, really fucking smart guy. Super super just earnest and wanting to educate people, which is why we over deliver on the subscription software. It actually, I'm sorry, not subscription, the email sub that was actually put out initially to help coaches, to help other coaches, because they could take the programming, they could take the breakdown and all the knowledge they're receiving from that and learn, like take this stuff and literally learn how to coach and how to
right.
program, because he goes over all that stuff in there. He talks about video review and how to look for certain cues and certain movements and what you're looking for in setups and how you're looking for someone to actually send you videos and what a check-in process looks like. Our internship program has turned into a grooming service, essentially, where people come in and we help them. We helped another guy start his own business in our
Yeah,
internship this past internship, the summer one. And now I believe we have one young lady in our internship who is a coach already. She's got
wow,
about a couple dozen clients, maybe more, 50,000 followers on Instagram. Super smart girl, wants to learn a bit more on the scientific side. We have another guy who I believe is getting his PhD, in not in exercise science, but I believe it's physiology. But don't quote me on what it's
right.
actually in. But I know that obviously it's exercise based. And then we have a DPT, a student. She's gonna wrap up, I think, her second year, the end of next semester. And then another person who's just kind of starting out, very interested, trying to get their feet under them and get things going. So they all come after a guy who started a business within here, a girl who had a business that was all in person who now transitioned to online, and a girl who's just blossomed her online business from something that was modest to something that is like booming, like super super cool and very very just dope. So um, it's really cool to see just the education and the spawning of knowledge
You
and
guys are like
success that
the
comes from the
fitness cradle of
association with us,
coaches.
for sure.
like everybody that comes through there is just legendary after they leave.
What do they call it? I don't know
Yeah.
what a PTU, personal trainer U, like DBU. No, man, it's cool. It is like you said. It's there's not really a price tag you can put. We're gonna put a price tag on it eventually, but there's not a price tag you can really put on the fact that like watching someone do some shit that's really
Right.
cool that they did because they met you is
Well,
cool.
man, I
It's just
appreciate
really
it. I'm gonna
cool.
have to
It's
cut us
fulfilling.
off. I know we can chat about this today, so we'll have to have a part two, part three, part four,
Oh
maybe. But
my god. I'm always down. I need to actually come down
I want to come
and
work out
see
with you and
this
Bryce.
fucking
Is what I
setup you
want
have.
to do.
This
So
room is
maybe we'd
dope.
have to do that and get some filming and a podcast with you and Bryce.
You you can pull up whenever. Actually, we'll be probably doing
Sweet.
some stuff
Sounds
in a
good, man.
month or
Well,
so.
again,
So just let me know
thanks
and
for
we'll
coming
try to
on.
coordinate.
Tons of good info, and chat with you again soon, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
See you.
See you later.